So, in short, we're wrapping it up. But basically, we said that the unique conduct of Esther Hamalka was there as a symbol to make like the exact tikkun for the sin of the Jews in that generation. What was the sin of the Jews in that generation? They threw off their recognition of the supernatural guidance of Hashem, and they threw themselves entirely into the physical, natural world and relied on their prowess there, as it were. And that's what it means they had benefit from the Suda, their invitation to the Suda and their excitement that they might have some political ground to stand on and so forth was what it means they had benefit. And this itself caused Hashem to remove his supernatural guardianship from them, as we said. And therefore they were left in a situation where they had to fend for themselves, as it were, in nature. This is dreadful, and therefore all of a sudden they were, so to speak, obligated extermination. And we said it was not a punishment for a crime. It was a natural consequence of just a Jew versus nature, is that there's no Jew. So Esther had to rise up and basically not just save the Jews, but also save them in a unique way where she would like teach them the problem and the error of their reasoning. And so that's what she did. She went into the king, which itself was taking natural means, right? She went in and begged for her life, which is essentially relying on your own. She was the queen, first of all. So she was in a position, why didn't Mordechai go in? Why didn't anyone else go in? Because she had a, so to speak, natural good in. Politically speaking, it was a savvy move to send the queen. So in other words, she did take the natural means and so forth. However, if she was really going to use all her political savvy, she would have also used the piece that why she was chosen from every single woman in the entire kingdom, which is that she was the most beautiful and she was the most gorgeous. And instead of basically prettying herself up, she fasted for 3 days, right? And therefore she didn't put so much emphasis, so to speak, on the natural vessel. She used the natural means, but she also showed that first and foremost, the natural means were not her real recourse to salvation. On the contrary, if they were, she would have put everything she had into the natural means. She would have put all her effort there. But instead, she really put all the main effort into the spiritual cause of the salvation, which is, of course, Hashem, and davening and praying for 3 days and fasting, and therefore even weakening her position naturally to show the Yidden that even though we are required to take natural means, it's a secondary thing, and it's merely a vessel, and it's something extremely external, and you're just really making a kli for the supernatural salvation of Hashem. And therefore it was mamash a perfect, storybook play by her, textbook play by her, to explain to the Jews the error of their ways. Okay, so we'll go on now and we'll finish it up. Yes, please, by all means.
Probably an off-the-wall.
We're all off the wall, so you might as well just fit right in.
I've learned that every time she was with the king, sexually it was rape. And this time she was choosing to do it, and she was throwing away her future life with her husband Mordechai by choosing to be with the king in this way.
Okay.
And I guess I just want to see if that...
Yeah, in other words, that's why it was such a mysterious nefesh, basically. She was like sacrificing everything to save the Jewish people. Because so long as she didn't ask for the relationship, so she was honest, was anus. She was basically... She was, but for basically she was basically taken from the kingdom and made to be his wife. So it was all against her will. The whole thing was against her will, essentially. So every time she was with her, it was like she wasn't allowed to say no, right? But in this case, she knocked on the door, basically, right? And she approached the situation. So that is already not considered rape. If a woman is raped, God forbid, so she's still theoretically permitted to her husband, so long as he's not a kohen and so forth. But in other words, al pi halacha, if a woman is taken into captivity, once she comes out, she's permitted to her husband because the whole thing was against her will. But
take her.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, okay.
I was a shindala the whole time. That she, it wasn't really her.
Okay, there's all kinds. Yeah, listen, there's all kinds of midrashim and so forth. But the point is that ad kedei kach, so much, she was basically willing to take the natural means. You know what I mean, and sacrifice herself, mamish.
The fast, just to clarify, the fast was like Yom Kippur, like sundown to sundown for 3 days.
Seemingly, yeah, she fasted like pretty intensely for 3 days. The whole Jewish people fasted with her. And it was during Pesach that they fasted. It wasn't now. They fasted in the festival of Pesach, which is again a whole nother. They're basically, normally you're not allowed to fast on the holiday. Anyway, let's go on. So, Os Ches, for anyone who still bears the copies. Achas me'oros sheyesh lemod mizeh bavodas kol echad ve'echad.
Yeah, you see that?
What you got?
A lot of ants here.
Okay. One of the lessons we can learn for each and every Jew, Bnei Yisrael nivru neshamos begufim, is that the Jewish people were created souls in bodies. Ba'ofen shemuchrachim lisasek b'tzarchei haguf, in such a way that we have to deal with our bodies, even though our soul seemingly is completely uninterested in the body. And the soul wants to do Torah and mitzvahs, and it doesn't need to sleep, and it doesn't need to eat. But it's in a body, so it's basically forced to take its entire physical being into account, which itself is like a tremendous pain theoretically for the soul. As you have to deal with this, it's like going around mamash an animal. You ever think about that? You look around and you see the cat just like with his nose in the trash. You're like, thank God that's like, my soul is not in that. Like I'd be my nose in the trash.
Every day.
You think that, yeah?
Every day.
But you are. That's the crazy thing. Our nose is in the trash. Compared to where the soul is, when it has to go into this body, it's rummaging through the garbage like it can't believe it has to be in such a situation. But that's where Hashem put us. So we have to deal with the bodily functions. Like it's not bichlal in the soul's interest. So one thing is for sure. You take the soul's perspective. Your occupation in the body, which you're forced to sleep, eat, drink, etc., it must be in such a way that it's not in a way of hana, like this suda. You have to go to the suda, okay, but to have hana, to benefit from it, that's where your enjoyment is. There's one thing, you have to eat something, you have to rummage through the trash, but to get up in the morning and run to the trash, that's for the cats. You know what I'm saying? That's not. That can't be the approach of yourself in the body. Your whole need to be here, which Hashem put us in this situation for a very high reason actually, it's not for the body itself, it's merely a garment. It's completely secondary to your main purpose in this world. Your wealth, your riches, your eating, your drinking, all of your physical life, it's a must, but it's a must which is totally secondary to what you're actually really doing here. Tell that to most of the people in the world. They don't even know what you're talking about. There's a completely different purpose to your life, that you're really here to do on a different mission. It's all about the bigger the house, the bigger the car, the fancier the this, the more important dinners I can be invited to. The physical world by most people is the function and purpose of their life. So he's telling you it's completely secondary here. You have to do it, but it's secondary. Your geschmack, your pleasure, your life, your interest has to be in the life of your soul, which is limud Torah, kiyum mitzvahs, etc. That's what he says. What's the etc? Verbring it.
You have to come to fire every morning and burn our
so, mamish, this is what your life is. You have to be pashit, running around like a businessman with his head, spinning around for Torah and mitzvahs, farbrengens, miftsoim, and all the soul things. Ve'ilu, his askus benyani agashmi. Whereas when it comes to your business dealings, your physical dealings, I should say, hirak kadeshiyeh Bria v'shalem v'yachol avodas Hashem. It's only for the sake of being healthy and whole, so you can serve Hashem. And as you can't ignore the body, because if your body's not healthy, your soul's not going to be able to function properly. So you have to take care of it. But for those reasons, add that much and no more. V'zos Yibachein ha'adam im osek v'tzarek gufo l'shem shamayim olo. So with this will be your even abochin, your determining factor, your litmus test, if you are serving for your bodily needs or for the shem shamayim or not. This will be your test. Kasher chay nishmaso hem ha'ikar etzlo v'chay gufo hem tafel. That when your soul will be the life of your soul will be the main thing by you, and your bodily life will be tafel. V'gam zeh kadei she'aguf bari v'shalim la'avodas Hashem. And then, in order that also your body will be healthy and whole and able to serve Hashem, azai kol chayusu v'hanaso hem b'limudat Torah v'kiyum mitzvos. That's how you'll know that all of your enjoyment in life will be in the learning of Torah and the kiyum mitzvos. That's what you're going to get your geschmack out of. And your bodily dealings will be in such a way that it's forced, or al kol panim bli hana, like we said in the Maimer. It's brought in Shulchan Aruch that when it comes to eating, drinking, physical things, you should be considered as though a demon is forcing you. Remember, we learned this, it's brought in the Halacha. What does it mean, a demon is forcing you? It means this, that it should be that, okay, I have to eat and drink. And he says, al kol panim, if you're not going to get to the point where you feel like it's a force, I mean, it's mamash a high level, at least not with a hana and a geschmack, and that's basically where your whole life is running into. Alval k'sha'osei chay gufo ikar, when you make the body the main thing, so he says, this is your test, this is your litmus test. You'll know where you're holding, because when it comes to suddenly the life of the soul, when your body's life is the main thing by you, therefore when it comes to inyanim of the soul, then your approach will be, okay, fine, tell me my obligation and I'll do it. In other words, you're still willing to do mitzvahs, you're not like mamash completely lost, but you have the exact opposite approach. You're forced to doing mitzvahs, right? And therefore you'll do the minimum, the bare minimum that you can, because that's not where you want to be. So you'll do it, but as soon as you fulfill your obligation, you're out of there. Right? And you can see the difference. Some people, if they're like mamash on a diet and so forth, and they're really into the diet, and they're looking after the health of their body, they're going to say, give me X amount of calories, and if I have to eat, I'll eat up until what I need to, and that's enough. Right? And I don't want any more. Versus a person who's going to get a big scooping piles of delicious food on their plate, and they can't get enough. Right? Because that's what they're interested in, is the food. It could be, guess what? It could be the same way by mitzvahs. You could say, okay, it's what? I have to read the whole book of Tehillim? Okay, fine. Because you're just trying to get yotzi, whatever it is that you have to do. Versus, it's like a big pile of ice cream on your plate. Give me more pages of Tehillim. Give me more mitzvahs. That's your chayas. That's your enjoyment. You'll know if you're a healthy person, if that's what gives you pleasure in life. You can't wait for the next opportunity to do more godly things. Whereas when it comes to the physical, Mushka behem v'osek mizeh metoch tainuk, right? So if a person's not living a proper life, then you want to just be yotzi your spiritual obligations, and when it comes to the physical, you're sunk into them in a deep way, looking for the pleasure. Nenin, you're having a hana, as it were, from inyanim of the nefesh habahamis, and that's what it means. Nene sudasu shel osarasa. Now basically it's like tying it up. That's what it means. They had pleasure from that meal, that their geschmack was in the physicality of it. And this is ultimately the lesson from Purim. That the whole salvation of those days was connected with this point. That the Jews, that they recognized that the pleasure that from that meal, that's a powerful statement, is that enjoying that meal was in opposition to their very existence. Think about what that means in your life, right? That enjoying pashut, the meal, enjoying the physicality. Okay, no one's arguing that you have a nefesh Bahamas and you're caught up in it and you want more ice cream and more beer, whatever it is. But they came to the realization that their excitement of those things was in opposition to their existence, and it actually revealed itself. If they had hana in this thing, and suddenly they were obligated extinction. Right, and that's what came to that's like sort of what popped out and came to realization by Yidden, is that it's not a game. Being involved in these things is putting yourself into the world at large against your soul, it is the opposite of you. It's the end of you. It's not really you. It's against your true nature, Shel Am Yisrael. And by realizing that, basically, they came out of this nightmare by fasting, doing tshuva. In other words, Hashem woke them up by giving, one way to get a Jew to do tshuva is to tell him he's going to become extinct. You know what I'm saying? So all of a sudden they stopped and had to look at themselves. They realized where they were holding, and they saw the error of their ways, and that's what created the Hatzalah and the Geula. As soon as they basically pulled themselves out of this and realized what it's really all about, Adrabah, it says, then they finally received the Torah. What's the ending of the Torah? So it says, Panim b'panim diber Hashem imachem. Face to face, Hashem spoke to you. What's face to face? We learned all this so much Chassidus on Purim, but by now it's already 6 weeks in. Face to face means that your face is towards Hashem, meaning to say, what's your face and what's your back? Your interest and your disinterest. So the whole point of that Hashem spoke to us face to face on Har Sinai was that we gave our full interest in receiving the Torah. We came out of Mitzrayim. What's Mitzrayim? Our interest and lust over the body. So one gate after the next gate, 49 gates, we released ourselves, probably with miraculous help, to come, and by the time we were standing on Har Sinai, we were face to face. Our entire interest was with Him. And therefore, guess what? Like water reflects the face, His entire interest was with us, and that's why we received the essence of Hashem, because we gave Him everything we had, and it says that at the time of Har Sinai, Parcha Nishmasam, their souls flew out of their bodies. And we learned in the Alter Rebbe, they actually didn't die, it's just that their souls flew out of everything bodily. That any interest in physicality and body and so their souls flew out of that. It was no longer interest in anything bodily. And therefore the response from that was the revelation of Hashem on Har Sinai. So the same is true of Purim. That was the lesson that they learned. They got all tied in and sucked in back to the being interested in putting too much emphasis on the body. And when they basically realized through the threat basically of Hashem that they were going to die from this, they put their full efforts into Hashem, and therefore they got the salvation. And this is essentially what causes salvation privately and communally in our lives every single time. It's called tshuva. You got to just basically get back on the scene, because that's life. Umismach geula geula, and the classic ending of every Purim, every good Purim Maimer, we have to join one geula to the next geula, geulas Purim to the geulas Pesach, v'ad v'kolel yitzias amisis, mimetzer hagbalos haguf, to the true Pesach, which is the true exiting from all the boundaries of the body. Just like the days you went out of Egypt, I'll show you wonders in the times of Mashiach. Mamish.